Welcome to the latest edition of Cageside Speaks. My name is 14 Fitzpatrick, and happy second anniversary, Cageside Speaks. Yes, folks, this is our second anniversary show. We started all the way back on June 20th, 2015 with the great Sean Reuter, Reverend Kane, Kevin Green, KM Tierney, and Blue and Orange for Life. They did the very first show of Cageside Speaks. Here today, we have ourselves two new guests and a returning guest to this edition of Cageside Speaks, which is the gimmick where we bring together a bunch of people from the Cageside Seats community to talk about the show. And oh boy, we got a very interesting show here today. For as you may have noticed in the title screen, today's episode is called the Creative Foreclosure in the Bank Edition, because we're talking about Money in the Bank 2017. A show that should have been okay, but instead has been filled with a lot of dread, yelling, and bad booking decisions. So, anyway, our returning guest for this edition of the show is Keith Harris.
Hello, great to be back.
Yep. It's so great to have you back here, Keith. And today we have two new guests on board the show. First, we have Brandon Biscoing.
Hey, how's it going?
And we also have Taker's Minion, who's been busy recovering the ashes of The Undertaker, while after Roman Reigns quite literally and figuratively took a bazooka to the man.
Yeah. Welcome, guys. Nice to see us.
So, our first segment we'll be talking about before we get to that match is the pre-show match between the Colognes, who are no longer calling themselves the Shining Stars, to my disappointment, versus the returning Hype Bros. So, Taker, what was your thoughts on this pre-show match?
Well, thanks. Seeing that Zack Ryder was out for close to 6 months with a knee injury, and having watched the match again this morning just to make sure I had everything right, the Hype Bros themselves did not seem to lose a step, in my personal opinion. They worked together. Zack Ryder showed no ring rust. So in my opinion, he moved quickly. He, solved the face in peril as well as he always did. And they finally took out the Colognes with their finishing move, because I cannot think of the name off the top of my head to save my life. And took the win. I mean, it was a smart, crisp match from somebody who was returning after being out for 6 months. You would expect ring rust to show his ugly face and timing to be up, but everything was like right on the money.
Yeah, and it was an awesome match to watch. So, Brandon, what were your thoughts on this match?
I completely agree with Taker. It was a good, solid match. No real ring rust there. The finisher, I think, is called the Hype Rider, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And the one thing I was honestly nervous about this match going into it, because with all of the rumors going around with the potential of the Hype Bros breaking up, I was thinking, and especially with how the Colognes were getting some wins on SmackDown Live when they got moved over in the Superstar Shakeup, I was worried that they were going to have the Colognes win this match, but I was happily surprised, and the Hype Bros won, and I'm hoping that they get some sort of, I hope they at least get that title shot that they would have gotten back last year if it wasn't for Ryder's injury, and I would like to see them get a title run.
Yeah, I think that might be a very interesting idea there, to bring the Hype Bros into the tag team race and see.
Aren't they leaning that direction right now with what was said on Tuesday night?
I think they are.
Shane told them they have to fight, they have to wrestle the Usos this coming Tuesday. So I see them getting a victory over the Usos, just so we can have a nice feud, because I mean, they're perfect for one another. They're fast-paced. Hype Bros have a lot more high impact than the Usos do, but the Usos have more high risk.
Yeah, I think that will be a very interesting feud if they go in that direction. So, Keith, what are your thoughts on the pre-show match?
It was a nice crowd warming opener, I think, and one of the few matches on the show where the baby faces went over. So, which was a nice way to start the show. To get the crowd into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
it was a really
the way
good...
that they're going with a lot of these pay-per-views. The last two pay-per-views, it was the same way, where the only matches where faces won were kind of the sideshow matches, the smaller end matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was a bit of a weird thing. And as we get into the show, we'll see that more and more of I think the majority of the heels won on this show, which for a transitional pay-per-view, it's okay to do that sometimes. But in this particular case, it might have been better to balance it out a little bit better. And that leads us to the first match. Oh, good Lord. What a first match. The tempo to set up your pay-per-view is to have your fans have a nice, happy moment for your very first match. Instead, they decided to do that on a pre-show. But this match was the Money in the Bank women's ladder match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship match contract. Oh, boy. Let's see here. Keith, do you want to start us off with this execution?
Well, I think the key thing here was the finish, which upset a lot of people. Which I don't think anyone minded that Carmella won, but it was just the manner in which it was done, where James Ellsworth tipped, I think it was Becky Lynch, off the ladder, and then went up the ladder, got the briefcase, and threw it down to Carmella. And I think one of the main issues with the finish was that how WWE had promoted the match was this historic first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and they had a bullshit finish to the match. And I think that's upset a lot of people online. I think I tended to agree with the people that you needed a more serious finish given how they presented the match.
Yes.
And there was quite a bit of mansplaining going on, that like women who weren't happy with the finish were getting told that, well, heels cheat to win and this was fine. And, sort of, and that was a bit distasteful, I thought.
Oh, yeah, it certainly was. Yeah, it certainly was.
I think the match as a whole, I thought the finish didn't help. I don't think it quite lived up to the billing. I think that it was a good effort from all the women involved. It's just at times that it seemed to maybe not completely go off the rails a bit, but it seemed to peak a bit earlier. It seemed like it went a bit long. It could have been a bit tighter, the match, in places.
Oh, yeah, certainly. And that finish was just such a bad move. So, Takers, do you want to set us off with the second execution?
My opinion, the match itself, spot-wise, was decent. I mean, we only saw one moonsault. Well, I guess you could call it a moonsault. It was more of a inverted flip of some kind or other off the top rope to Tamina and Natalya on the floor. We were all expecting Charlotte to go crazy off the ladder with a moonsault and probably kill everybody. In my opinion, the finish was a crock of shit. This is Vince saying to the universe, and this is Vince thumbing his nose at the women's revolution/evolution. That he's minimizing it yet again, making it seem insignificant. Ellsworth, with what's going on Tuesday night and what was told on Talking Smack Tuesday night, he's banned from ringside. So now maybe we'll get a much cleaner finish in this match. Who's going to win is anybody's guess, but I have a funny feeling it's going to be the same person as it was at Money in the Bank. But, you know, the match itself was pretty, it had its moments. I mean, it looked like there was a timing issue with when Natalia and Becky had the ladder. Someone missed their spot. Tamina didn't miss hers, but someone else missed her spot when they were dancing with the ladder. I was expecting more people to get knocked around with ladders, and the other two didn't show up. So I don't know. I mean, it can go either direction from that point. But other than that, the finish is what set me off, and it set off a lot of people. I mean, my wife was yelling at me for days about it. Days! Saying it was bullshit. You know, James Ellsworth taking the case. However, James Ellsworth getting involved and dumping Becky off the ladder.
Yeah.
So that I don't have an issue with. That's, you know, it's a no disqualification, basically a match that has no rules. And, well, you know, he's like a valet / manager. What's a manager supposed to do? What's a heel manager supposed to do? He's supposed to inject himself in such a way to help his wrestler win. And he did what he was supposed to do. He took it too far climbing the ladder. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, he took it too far with the finish there. Taking the ladder off, that was the issue. Taking the briefcase off the ladder, that was the issue.
I think what it was is that initially it was supposed to be, now this is my opinion that I'm trying, you know, I'm speculating here, that he was supposed to knock Becky off the ladder, and he was supposed to basically push Carmella up the ladder. Carmella couldn't do it because of one thing or another with that power bomb, because it looked like she'd landed on the back of her head. And
yeah, I was wondering about that.
You know, I looked at it close and I slowed it down and looked at it, you know, and I'm like, ooh, she didn't land quite right. And that was a change in the booking by Ellsworth all on his own because of the situation with Carmella. Now, that could be totally wrong, and, you know, and I could be told that later, that, you know, I can find out later that it was wrong, but I think what the WWE has done with what they did on Tuesday night, they stripped Carmella of the case, was the right call in this, and to basically redo it on regular television, on USA, which is going to be, it's going to be one of the highest rated SmackDowns in a while.
Sure, but at the same time, this was the first women's Money in the Bank match.
I know, and they made it was totally botched. Totally 100% botched.
Oh, man. So, Brandon, what were your thoughts on this match?
If Taker's theory is correct, that's one thing. But I think Taker's original point was completely valid and is what happened. This was Vince basically saying that women need men to do the dirty work for them. This was Vince minimalizing the women's division yet again and basically destroying the moment. And I'm glad that they made the right call and that they're redoing it, but it leaves such a bad taste in everyone's mouth following this match. I mean, the match itself, it wasn't bad. There weren't really any huge spots that were noteworthy. I mean, it's a ladder match. You would expect something at least fairly big to happen. But nothing really all that huge happened. And the finish was just complete and utterly ridiculous. You know, so
Agreed.
Like Taker said, if it was just Ellsworth pushing Becky off of the ladder and then Carmella climbing it up herself and grabbing the briefcase, that would be one thing. But Ellsworth climbing up it and grabbing the briefcase himself and then tossing it down to Carmella, no, you can't have that when you're trying to, especially, I mean, the Mae Young Classic is going to be completely separate, and, you know, it won't be a lot of the same audience and everything. But especially when you're trying to build up the women to prepare for the Mae Young Classic and everything, this was just, if it was a predetermined plan that was just completely worst thing you could have done right now.
I agree 100%.
So, Keith, what are your thoughts on these the two opinions that have been brought up?
I think I don't know. It seems I don't think it's the stripping of the Money in the Bank briefcase was a reaction to how fans responded. It seems like this might have been the plan all along because you know, of the tweets they were doing during the show, it was Daniel Bryan's big return. So on SmackDown, so I guess they would want him to do something important on his return in terms of the storyline. So I think you know, my gut feeling is that it played out on TV how they planned it out, and it was just not a good idea for the reasons, you know, both Takers and Brandon has said, because it was the first match of this type, and you know, it sort of dilutes the value of it. This what should have been a historic moment and something memorable in WWE history.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had done this on, you know, even the second or third, it wouldn't have been quite as bad. Yeah, it still would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been as bad as it is with the first. Now, I have an interesting question for you guys. What do you think about this? I have my own opinions about it, but what would the reaction among the IWC be if the roles were reversed? What if Maurice did that for Miz?
Oh, it would have still been horseshit.
Oh,
my opinion is that it turns around and makes Miz look like a pussy.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Because he's using his wife to get the case for him, you know, and we already know Miz has taken the case once himself.
Oh yeah, he's done that before, and you know, on all honesty, you know.
And by the way, Fizz, I apologize for my language, but I am very blunt.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the podcast, folks, where you know, last time out we had the message, please don't cane your children.
Well, I mean, in that last podcast I heard, this is a match that happened.
Oh, Eddie Mac.
That's pretty much what this match was. This was a match that happened.
I agree.
A horrible, horrible finish.
Yeah. You know, my wife, bless her heart, she is a very independent person, and all she kept saying was, they made a woman look like she couldn't climb a effing ladder by herself. She goes, Jesus Christ, I can climb a 16-foot ladder if I have to. I don't like it. I'm afraid of height, but I'll climb that 16-foot ladder to change a freaking light bulb if I have to.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everyone's reaction was. It made Carmella look super weak and just. Yeah,
to me, this match was a CF. Charlie Fox.
Can we please just do with this match what they are trying to do with that horrible "This Is Your Life" moment with
Oh, please, let's not go into that.
They like basically push this. I mean, that's pretty much what they're trying to do with the rematch. But can we please just push this out of all memory and out of WWE history?
Unfortunately, it's in the book, so it won't ever. You know, it's available on the network for $9.99 a month. Everybody will be able to see it eventually, and it's gonna be the dumpster fire of all dumpster fires.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll try and I can't say it. They'll try and create some legend with it being the first match, and probably about the finish.
So we've got a whole year. We've got a whole year now to build up to the next women's Money in the Bank ladder match, if there even is going to be one.
Yeah.
I think there will.
That, you know, because Vince could say, well, look at how the first one was so didn't work, and we could all say, well, Vince, it's your goddamn fault.
Yep. So how much you want to bet that next year we'll have the same thing reversed?
I won't touch that bet.
I don't think it'll happen. I can't see them booking. Maybe unless it was like an act like Maria and Mike Kanellis, maybe they would.
I could totally see it with either Maria and Mike or Miz and Maurice.
Well, they do something like this in TNA with the Feast or Fired match, and didn't Maria Kanellis get involved in one of the matches to make sure he got one of the Feast cases?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's TNA. They do all that crazy nonsense all the time.
They do
that's a Tuesday for them.
All the time, so it's not TNA. Well,
right,
it shouldn't be surprising with WWE either. We're over. We're giving WWE way too much credit here.
Well, who's to say they wouldn't steal the idea from TNA and use it with Mike and Maria Kanellis?
Oh, I could totally see them do it.
Mm-hmm. So can I.
Yeah. It's the fact that we can see it happen, possibly happen. That's the worry there. But
you know what I want to see. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't want to see this, but it would be an interesting kind of concept. Next year, have either Ellsworth or like whoever interfere in the women's one, get the contract, and have like Maria get the contract in the men's one, or Maurice or someone, and then on Monday, I'm assuming next year it would be a Raw show. So on Monday night, them come out, or like Kurt Angle or whoever the GM is, be like, okay, the matches stand, but the roles are reversed now because a man grabbed the women's briefcase and a woman grabbed the man's briefcase. No. It won't. No. Come on now. You're wanting to do an intergender matches? No, not an intergender match. It's that, like, let's say Maria grabbed the men's briefcase and Ellsworth grabbed the women's. Ellsworth would get the title shot for the men's title, and Maria would get the title. The people that they were trying to get the titles wouldn't get it. They would get the titles for the reverse title.
Okay, so basically,
I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have we got Vince Russo on the phone here?
Oh, dear Lord. Funny story. Teammate Burner, one of the guys in the Daily Fred, has been doing extremely accurate predictions lately that somehow, some way, Vinny Rue has managed to drag his way back into WWE.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, case in point, the kendo stick on a pole match.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
or
you're talking about the Bailey squash match.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't get me started.
No, don't get me started.
Yeah. So, like, what my thought process is that the person who is on the board of the creative team right now that's been doing all these screwy finishes lately, I think he's been robbing Vince Russo's garbage and has been taking the scripts from there and
God. Speaking of Vince Russo, did you hear what he went and did? He filed a restraining order against Cornette.
Yeah, he filed a restraining order against Jim Cornette, for those who don't know, but oh my goodness.
The funny thing is that he says he can beat Jack Gallagher's ass when Jack Gallagher is a legit MMA fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's an old Vince Russo habit of criticizing the smaller wrestlers. It's like Pro 101.
Basically Vince McMahon 2.0.
Yeah.
Nah, he's the lower level equivalent of Vince McMahon. So continue, Keith.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's no problem.
Listen to Russo, what a joke.
Yeah. I mean, both of those guys aren't really doing well with their credibility right now in their old age, but my God.
If you're talking about cred, I'll tell you right now, Cornette's got more credibility than damn Russo does. Russo ruined 2 companies.
That's fair. Although Cornette's temper can be used to cook popcorn, so that's a major plus for him. I mean, seriously, scientific experiment. Put Sornet in the center of one of them fairgrounds carts. Put a bunch of popcorn right next to him. Say the word Vince Russo 3 times to his face and watch as the popcorn starts flying.
I agree with that.
So,
And then he would have, with all that, he would have Gino sitting there in the crowd going, "What a stupid show."
what a stupid show. So, my
For
thoughts.
those of us that are insiders, the case side, we all know what that means.
So, this show, this particular match, I was watching this show, and I watched the first match, and I saw the previews, and I saw the promo hype video for this match, how this match was going to make all history. The little voice in the back of my head basically started screaming, they're going to do a swerve here, aren't they?
You saw it coming before anybody.
Yeah. I
knew right from the get-go. I was just waiting for it. I was like, okay, when is James Ellsworth going to interfere? I didn't think he was going to do what he did, but I knew he was going to interfere.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the promo package and everything that they did for this match. I mean, it was, what should have been a freaking epic match. I mean, the promos, all of them were great. All 5 of them were great. I had even stated that there was going to be a surprise 6th.
Well, everyone was thinking
I had posted there was going to be a surprise 6th, and it was going to be Asuka.
Well, no, a lot of people I heard, and it's ironic that she showed up later on in the show. A lot of people were thinking it was going to be Maria.
Yeah, I had an outside hope that it was going to be Asuka. That was Asuka's call. She was going to be the 6th one and come in and basically kill everybody and take the case and go back to NXT with it.
I would have loved to have seen that, but I don't know how they're going to do Asuka because I don't want that streak to end, but I know it's going to have to if they're going to bring her up to the main roster. But
Brandon, no, it doesn't. I can tell you right now, it does not need to end. I have booked it. I have posted it. Let her come up to the roster as undefeated. And it's very simple. She's basically destroyed everybody in NXT that's been put in front of her. That's how she's been booked. Okay? She just vacates the title and leaves.
No, okay. Yeah, that works.
And then she comes up to the roster and she goes on a tear and she meets someone like Tamina or something, and some kind of freak. And she loses freakishly. She already has the record for most wins, undefeated streak, and she has the record for longest days. She's already surpassed CM Punk. What else can we do?
Yeah, I just hope that they don't end her streak like they ended Goldberg's streak.
Oh, that was it.
Any tasers involved?
No, let her face someone like, I don't know,
Nia Jax.
No, Nia Jax is on Raw. We want her on SmackDown. SmackDown's much better. So I would say put her in the ring with, let's say, Nikki Bella.
Oh, that would be a great strong style match.
Yeah, and those two, to watch and to see Nikki Bella be the one to slay the dragon, so to speak.
Oh God, no! Please.
I'm not looking forward to that, honestly. But to continue, I thought the match was okay. I thought it was very conservative. I thought that they could have done more with it. And as my mother was watching with me, and she's not the biggest wrestling fan in the world, she'll watch with me. She knows about wrestling, but she was like, they're very conservative, aren't they? And I was like, yeah, they're kind of going with the conservative route. And as the video packages ended and all that kind of stuff, I thought, Ellsworth's going to interfere. He's going to interfere. They've been playing this angle for months. And then it happened. It happened like, okay, you got Carmella over there, and Ellsworth's checking on her. Ellsworth interfered and got Becky off the ladder. And then I go, he's climbing the ladder, isn't he? Oh, no. And he climbs up the ladder, and then you start to hear the silence. Silence from the crowd. As then he unhooks the briefcase and drops it down, throws it down to Carmella, And then the bell is rung, and the referees start arguing with one another, and I just sit there in shock and go, "You went with that finish." I would have expected Ellsworth to interfere in this match. I did not expect him to unhook the briefcase in the first ever Women's Money in the Bank match and throw it down to Carmella.
Well, wasn't little Nate trying to talk to that referee to tell him, look, that's not how it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
And where the hell was Shane to come out and make a ruling and restart the match?
Well, yeah, that's one of the problems that a lot of people have had that they've been talking about. They've been saying, why didn't it get restarted there instead of having to wait 2 days and having to do it now?
But then what Brian brought up about, it being Daniel Bryan coming back, I mean, yeah, that's perfect, but, to me it's stupid.
No, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I get the concept in terms of ratings and all of that. I understand it, but it doesn't work.
No.
Yeah. I mean, they tried to pop a rating. It didn't work. There's now a ton of female wrestling fans, male wrestling fans, anybody at this point who realizes that finish was horrible, that was a horrible idea, that was something that they should not have done. And
now, if this was any other promotion where women were looked at more favorably and you didn't have the perception of what Vince has done in the past and all of that, it would be different. It would have been held to there still would have been backlash, but it wouldn't have been the same amount of backlash.
I think it actually would have been worse if it was a well-respected promotion that had booked women correctly, that had done women's wrestling correctly. It would have been a considerably worse backlash, because then there's the expectation that they be able to do it correctly. Instead, you have a guy grabbing a briefcase in the very first match of this type.
Yeah, well, let's look back. Like I stated before we came on here, I've been following wrestling and been a friend of wrestling since the early '70s, and grew up watching AWA in Chicago. The women back then were booked much stronger than the women today, and I'll tell you right now, this finish would not fly. Those women would beat the hell out of the man. They would have jumped all five of them, or four of the five. Would have basically beat the holy hell out of him in the ring.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it, I agree with you guys. There would still have been a lot of backlash, but I think a lot of the backlash as well was, this is Vince trying to minimize the women again.
Yeah, and what killed the women, there's two things. There's two incidents in WWE, in my personal opinion, two incidents that have destroyed the women more than anything else. One was, I believe it was, it was two women that were together that were co-women's champions during the Attitude Era.
That would be the Fabulous Moolah, who was the worst.
No. I'm talking about two women that were co-women's champions.
Oh, Laycool.
Laycool as co-women's champions in the debut of the frickin' Divas Championship. That made women nothing but objects at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
And these women now today are trying so hard. They work. You look at their work rates, they work harder than the freaking men do.
Yeah.
To get over.
But I think that's...
And yet they're still looked at as sex objects by most of the fans and a lot of the old-time bookers that are involved with WWE today.
Yeah. I mean, look at Lana.
Oh yeah, but we'll get to Lana later on in the broadcast. So Keith, what were your thoughts on these topics as we've talked about them?
I want to go back to the conservative nature of the match, because I could see them being told, the women being told to hold back a little, partly because it's the opening match. And partly because I think of the PG environment. So I can see them not wanting anything too dangerous or too risky for the women to take, particularly like full-on shots with the ladder. I could see them not wanting to do too much of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And you know, I agree with that. That first match is, you know, the opening match, so they can't really do too much with it. And you know, it's just the 30 years of history, the more than 30 to 50 years of history of women's wrestling just being treated like absolute dirt is just so hard for these people to overcome these days. And I'm glad that they're finally starting to overcome it. It's just like moments like this just make it that much more difficult. Would you agree,
Well, that's
Keith?
the problem, is that this could have been one of those moments where it was something that pushed it further ahead and got people more invested in it and got the women on a more equal ground, but instead it pushed them, you know, 50 yards back.
I do think this is recoverable, however. This isn't like the olden days. This isn't like the old times where the AE era, the new era, the Divas Championship era, there's been so much backlash to this particular match that it has had a positive effect. And at least this is a salvageable situation. They are going to have a redo of this match on Tuesday, and hopefully they do the right decision. Hopefully this doesn't make me cause myself to hit my head repeatedly on my desk.
I'm just worried about it because, I mean, if you remember in the past, remember back when Ellsworth first came in, and he was with Dean Ambrose.
Yep.
Shane and Daniel specifically told him during one match to stay in the back, and he was basically, for all intents and purposes, barred from ringside, and he still showed up. So I could totally see them still doing something with him.
Well, I have a solution for that, and Keith's going to love this solution. You know how James Ellsworth's fashion sense is horrible? Well, why don't they just, you know, bring Ginny into the arena for that day, and if he decides to interfere, she can make him fashionable, which is basically going Sweeney Todd on his hide.
No, how about this? Instead of doing that, have the fashion popo put him under arrest and lock him in a cage in the back.
That'll work.
Yeah. So, yeah, we are all in agreement. That was a horrible match. Now let's continue on with another match that was great, but had a horrifically bad countout finish. That would be the Usos versus the New Day, Big E, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods. And Keith, I'll let you start us off with this.
Well, I think it started off as pretty much your standard New Day match with them having a bit of shine at the beginning. Then the Usos got heat on Kofi. Big E tagged in and ran wild for a bit. And then they went to the finish, and I thought the finishing stretch was quite exciting. So I think they botched maybe one spot, but this was overall this was a fun match. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was another bad finish on a show of bad finishes, but it wouldn't have been that bad if it was the only one like that, because it had a purpose to continue the feud between the New Day and the Usos.
Yeah, if it was the only one, then we wouldn't be complaining about as much about this show. So Brandon, what are your thoughts on this New Day Usos match?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as Keith. I mean, if this ends up being the only match of the feud, then yeah, that's a horrible finish. But I'm sure we'll get another match. I'm hoping that this leads to some sort of stipulation match. Probably, I would hope, a steel cage match, or like Hell in a Cell or something so that they can't escape. You know, as long as it leads to that moment, then I'm fine with it. But you know, we'll see how this goes. It's one of those situations where as long as long as it finishes correctly, then I'm okay with it. But if not, then not so much.
Okay, Taker, what's your thoughts on this Usos New Day match?
It was a good match all in all. The finish was a little bit predictable. You know, heels are going to take the easy way whenever they can. They have the champion's advantage, quote unquote. Kofi plays, you know, we look at Kofi, you know, could we see Big E being the face in peril? I don't think so. Kofi is better at it. You know, he's so being in pain, you know, being quote unquote injured, his knee, you know, he's just coming back from an ankle injury. They're trying to get our minds off of that. The finish, like I would agree with Brandon when it comes to the end of the feud. I would make it a. I would like to see it as a Hell in a Cell match, and you know, as we spoke about earlier, I'd like to see some color involved. But you know, that's again, you don't know what the WWE would make the match that much better. I think. But I'm old school, as I've stated before.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, it was a great match. Terrible ending, and Keith, you're right. There was a lot of terrible endings in this pay-per-view. You know, like you know, of the ending of this match, I think I rated second behind the women's Money in the Bank match. Is just somebody, you know, taking the easy way out, but that's what heels do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they took the easy way out on this one. Mm-hmm. Yep. So,
you know, do we want more? Do I want more of this match? Sure. I mean, there's unfinished business.
mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm curious about, with that being said, is where do the Hype Bros fall into this?
Triple threat.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, please, not another F the fans match. I am so sick of triple threats. Fatal 4-ways, fatal 5-ways, whatever the hell you want to call them. I call them the F you, F the fan, for F the, you know, F the fan.
Hey, I actually honestly wouldn't mind seeing a triple threat Hell in a Cell match at SummerSlam between these three.
Mm-hmm.
That might work, but you know, I'm so they're overusing that gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
This is the first pay-per-view in over a year that's not had a multiple competitive. Well, no, can't say that. Can't say that because of the ladder matches. Never mind.
Well, multiple matches without the ladders involved. You know,
Right.
Just a basic triple threat match or fatal 4-way. So those basic matches aren't on this show. Mm.
No, but I am tired of them.
Yes.
They do it too much.
Yeah.
Too much. Way too much. I mean, it's supposed to be a special gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
It's not special anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Remember back in 2010 when they had the fatal 4-way pay-per-view?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. It is. Oh, everybody liked it. Let's just throw it on every pay-per-view. Let's throw women in the freaking ring. Let's throw. No. It needs to be special again.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's not.
Yep. So let's see here. What was after this? I think it was it the tag match before this, or was Naomi versus Lana the next match?
I think it was Naomi versus
it was Naomi Lana next.
Okay, so this was the match that everybody was dreading about before the women's Money in the Bank match finish actually happened. Lana returned, and Naomi faced off against her for the women's championship. Thankfully, Naomi won, and Lana lost. So we'll start once again off with Keith. What were your thoughts on this match?
It felt to me a bit like a throwback to the let's say, women's revolution style of wrestling. Not to say that it was a bad match. I think Lana was a bit methodical in how she wrestled, but some of her offense looked good, like her spinebuster finisher. Some of her kicks, though, and strikes looked a bit weak. But overall, I thought she and Naomi didn't do that bad a job. But it was still clearly a shade below a lot of the matches on the show. It was just an okay match. Once again, the finish wasn't particularly great. I mean, you had Carmella and James Ellsworth come out to tease the cash-in of the Money in the Bank briefcase, which was fine, but after that distraction, they went very quickly to the finish, and again, it felt a bit of a flat finish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Taker, what was your thoughts on this match?
Well, I would have to agree a lot with Keith that as I've stated, to others, the match was good. I mean, for Lana's limited experience of never being on that big of a stage in the past, she carried herself quite well. She could sell real well. You could actually, you look at her when you saw the facial expressions and the close-ups of her face of her actual being angry about she was able to sell the anger part. She was able to sell the pain part. Yes, she plodded along and was slow in some of her setups, but in the end, she impressed me as a wrestler. I mean, with her limited skills, she did well. I was saying, just to cause hate and discontent, that I wouldn't have been surprised in the least bit had they put the title on her a la Jinder Mahal. Move her, make her something that she really isn't, and then move her into a feud with, let's say, Carmella or something. We were thinking, I was hoping that Becky would have took the case and put her with Becky, and that would have been one heck of a feud. But looking at it overall, the match was, I would give it a B- C+ match for Lana's first time out.
Coolness. Yeah, I would agree with you there. It wasn't something that was a total disaster. So, Brandon, what were your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I mean, as compared to what everyone was expecting, and myself included, I was expecting Lana, yes, she's been doing some things in NXT. Yes, she has Rusev to help her out. But I was, especially with how her gimmick is and everything, I was thinking, oh, God, this is going to be Eva Marie 2.0. But it turned out not to be, and that the match itself was good. Like Taker said, I was I wouldn't have at all been surprised had Lana won because of what they did with Jinder Mahal. The one thing that I was honestly surprised that they didn't do, and I honestly wouldn't have minded just to have seen the storyline implications of it and to see what they would have done. By this point in the night, Daniel Bryan had sent out his tweet already. The backlash was coming already. I would have had Carmella cash in, win the title, and basically go to SmackDown and be like, hey, I cashed in already. What you gonna do about it? And you could have done something with that. They didn't go that route. I'm fine with them not going that route, but it would have been something on a storyline level for them to do, which would have made things a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. That would be something interesting. It's just by then the backlash was so bad that they had to basically do a teasing cash-in, not a full-on cash-in. So I'm glad that they did it that way, so that way that they could adjust the angle as necessary. So let's see here. After this after this match, which everybody thought would be a disaster but wasn't, we then had, what was it? The Space Vampires versus the Fashion Police, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this was the fill-in match for the show of the Ascension were revealed as the guys who attacked the Fashion Police, who have had some amazing backstage segments over the last several months. And this was an okay match. The Fashion Police won. What more can you say?
Nothing really. I mean, I've not been a big fan of either Tyler Breeze or Fandango.
Mm-hmm.
Fandango. Yes. But they have taken chicken poop and turned it into chicken salad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And got that gimmick over like nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
And having seen the Fashion Popo live and in person,
Mm-hmm.
They are, you know, in my opinion, my honest opinion, deserving of the titles.
Yeah.
They need to run an angle again with the Usos.
Mm-hmm. But that's the positive. One of the few positive things we can take away from this is that we have at least 3 teams that could potentially challenge for the belts: the Hype Bros, the Usos, and the Fashion Police.
Yeah, right now SmackDown's got the strongest tag team division.
Well, because Raw's tag team division is basically destroyed because there is only one face tag team right now.
Actually, 2. You got the Hardy Bro, you got the Hardy Men, and you got Cesaro.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not face anymore.
Huh?
They turned heel a couple of months ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're referring to face tag teams. Yeah. The Cesaro tag team turned heel.
Okay, but I'm saying overall tag team. You look at the overall tag team division. If you what you've got on SmackDown, let's see, you've got the Usos as champions. You've got.
Oh no, I know that.
You got the Usos. You've got New Day. You've got the Hype Bros. You've got the Fashion Police. You've got your American Alpha, for crying out loud. You know, there's 5 good tag teams right there.
Yeah. No, what I was saying was on Raw that the tag team division is basically dead because there's only one really face tag team right now.
And that's the Hardy Boys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what other tag teams are there? Oh no, and we can't forget the Ascension. That makes 6. They got 6 full complete tag teams on SmackDown.
Raw just has Hardy's, Sheamus and Cesaro, Slater and Rhino technically, but they apparently there's rumors that they're going to break up.
Mm-hmm.
And and Revival.
Yeah.
Revival is heels.
Yeah.
What do you do? Turn them face to compete to go against?
I guess
Cesaro and Sheamus.
Yeah, I don't know. The Raw tag team division is just awful, and it's funny because when the draft happened,
Raw had when the initial draft happened, Raw had the stronger tag teams.
Yeah. But I mean, SmackDown, there are a bunch of tag teams, and the Ascension is the big one for me now because the other one is destroyed because one has been released. But the Ascension is one of those tag teams that I had such high hopes for them when they came up, and they have been used.
Yeah, I know.
Horribly.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes people work on the main roster, sometimes they don't. But the Ascension
the Ascension gimmick wasn't helped much by. I don't know how much truth there is to the rumor that was put out about a year ago or so that JBL was ordered by Vince to basically, quote unquote, talk shit about the Ascension.
Mm-hmm. Because they were trying to do the whole Legend Killer tag team gimmick, I think, at that time.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, if in my opinion on that tag team with the Ascension and against, let's say, Legion of Doom, aka Road Warriors,
mm-hmm.
there would have been no contest.
Yeah.
But the irony about it is that now you know the big problem with the Ascension back when they first came up were that they were Road Warriors 2.0. But I'm sure when Authors of Pain come up, they won't have any problems. They have even more of the Road Warriors since they have freaking Paul Ellering.
But the big question is this, Brandon. When Authors of Pain come up, is Paul coming with them?
I would assume so because
I highly doubt it because I don't think Paul wants that kind of schedule anymore.
That's true.
I don't think Paul's coming up with them.
Like I said before, I do not want any more women or tag teams getting called up to the main roster because they all get used horribly.
But we know it's going to happen anyway.
I know.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does kind of show. I think the NXT writers are basically realizing this because look at the NXT tag team division; it's basically destroyed too. You really only have 2 tag teams there.
Yeah, you have Authors of Pain and Heavy Machinery.
Although in that case, the reason it is fair to say, because of the fact they only have an hour of TV time and they only have 2 hours for takeovers, that they can't really develop tag teams quite just yet, but they're getting there.
I mean, look at it. Just a year ago, you had
Excuse me.
You had 5 or 6 tag teams that were,
And we just had one just blow up.
exactly.
Yep.
But you know, you look at the okay, let's we're splitting hairs when it comes to the tag team division. Yeah, the tag team division in NXT is garbage. We'll all agree to that.
Yep.
But the women's division in NXT
Is amazing.
You got Asuka, you got Peyton Moon, you got Ember Moon, Peyton Royce, Billie Kay.
I would
Cross, Ruby Riott. You got tons of talent down there right now. All of them, in my opinion, every one of those 6 people I just named deserves to be on the main roster somewhere.
This may be a very unpopular opinion, but I would say that the NXT women's division is better now than it was during the Four Horsewomen era.
Agreed. I would agree. The Four Horsewomen laid the foundation for what the NXT women's division is today.
Because now you have, I would say you have 5 top contenders.
6.
6?
Yeah.
Not counting Asuka, you got 5. You got Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, Nikki Cross, Ruby Riott, and Ember Moon.
And I would toss in what's her name, the one that just came in, who came from MMA.
The one who also was on Top Enough.
Oh yeah, Sonya
Deville. Yeah,
Deville.
Yes. So that is 5. That is 6. That is 6. And like I said, you got
that's a very interesting thought that this era of NXT with the women's division is better than the old one. That's one I've never heard of before. So I actually would like to get Keith's thought on this one. Do you agree with this or disagree?
I think there's more depth. I think, though, probably the Four Horsewoman era had maybe better high-end matches. So we haven't had we've had some very good matches from this set of women, but we haven't had like any classics like the Sasha Banks versus Bayley series, which were probably some of the best women's matches in WWE history.
That's possible, but I look at it this way. We haven't seen a one-on-one between Ember Moon and Asuka yet.
Yeah, that is very true. And, I mean, we've had some very good matches still. I mean, look at the match that happened, that triple threat a couple of weeks ago. That was a very good match. That fatal four-way that they had between, I think it was Asuka, Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, and Nikki Cross a while back. That was a very good match. They've had some very good matches with the women.
But match of the year candidates, not yet. Not since Sasha Banks Bayley.
Yeah, but see, it was also a different style back then because I feel like the Four Horsewomen were more technical wrestlers, which gives you more match of the year contenders.
Right.
But now you have more brutality in the women's division with the women that you have on the division right now, and you can get more of those extreme matches.
True.
To counter off on a point there, Ember did have a singles match with Asuka at Dallas.
That's right, and it was. And I remember now that I think about it, you're right. And I watched that match, and
not Dallas, Orlando.
It doesn't, yeah. But I will go back and look at that match. It had a dusty finish.
Oh yeah, I recall that happened
with Asuka grabbing the referee. I mean, it was a solid match, if I remember correctly. I'll have to go back and look at it. But
there have been a lot of dusty finishes with Asuka lately, though.
I think they're teasing a heel turn with her.
Actually, they've done a heel turn with Asuka.
Yeah.
Yeah, her famous line of "Who's left?"
Yeah, who's left?
I love her.
So yeah, it seems that there's definitely a foundation there with the women's division. It started with Paige and Emma, then it moved on to the Four Horsewomen. Now we have the NXT division. You know, we'll have to just see how things go because that's.
Oh, I got an idea. I just had an evil thought.
Oh, okay.
How about having the NXT women's division basically invade the main roster?
Oh, that would be awesome, but you know it would never work because they. I mean, if they did it right, it would be awesome. But
A women's version of the Nexus.
yeah, I would love to see that, but I don't think it would ever happen. What I would love to see, and I'm surprised they haven't done it with Nia Jax, but I mean, obviously the division is so much different now than it was back then. But it would be fun to see Asuka basically be like the new Karma, where she comes out and everyone just scatters because they're so afraid of her.
Well, she destroyed Nia Jax then in NXT, actually.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You know, you made a statement earlier, Brendan, about you don't want to see another tag team or a woman come up from NXT to the main roster because they won't be used properly. Why not build a Bullet Club around Asuka?
That would be cool.
Bring up Asuka, Peyton Royce, Nikki Cross, and Ruby Riott. Have them form a woman's version of the Bullet Club from Japan.
I would put Ember Moon in there either instead of Peyton Royce or with them.
That's a possibility. But it's
we're sitting here fantasy booking
now. That's the wonderful thing about Speaks is that we get into these lovely little side tangents where we begin to think about thoughts about, what could we do here or this. Like, it's solutions, You can complain all day and all night about who gets booked here or that here, but thinking of solutions is often a good way of just like.
You just got to wonder if WWE listens to this.
Possibly, but who cares if they do or they don't? If they do, that's fine. The ideas are there for the taking. Anyway, so the next match on the list of matches would be Jinder Mahal with the Singh brothers in his most unlikely championship run ever versus Randy Orton in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, which is where the pay-per-view was held. So let's see here. We'll start us off with Keith.
I thought this was a decent match. I think they gave it a bit of a special feel with the Legends of St. Louis introduction and them being involved in the match. I thought Jinder had a nice focused heat segment working over Randy Orton's knee that he kept going back to. And the finish of the match was very similar, really, to the finish from their previous match, in the sense that you had Randy Orton take out the Singh brothers in a slightly more maybe devastating fashion than he did at the previous pay-per-view. One of the Singh brothers got RKO'd through a table, and then Jinder Mahal caught him with his finisher in the center of the ring and pinned him again for the 3 count. So it was a decent match, but quite similar to their previous match in a lot of ways.
Very interesting. Okay, Taker, what were your thoughts on this match?
Well, myself, it's rather interesting. Like I said, I called Mahal taking the title back when he took it. I took a lot of heat for it. I'm not afraid to take any heat. My years of following wrestling, I tend to see trends. But anyway, the match itself, seeing some of the wrestlers from my era, from my time, the Greg Gagnes, the Larry Reax, seeing 76-year-old Baron Von Raschke at ringside, it warmed my heart to see him. And the man, at his age, Still looks like he could probably go in the ring. It would probably be a short 3 to 5 minute match, but you know, remembering the gimmick that he had with the claw and saying it will never be banned and this and that.
Yep.
It brought back wonderful memories of my youth. The match overall with Jinder and Randy, I would give it a middle B, you know, a standard B rating, because it was, you know, it had its moments where it was kind of drug out. It looked like at points Randy was mailing it in.
Yep.
But when the whole thing with his father, when the Singh brothers were kicked to the back, or supposedly thrown out to go to the back, they had a conference and then went after the Legends and they grabbed Randy's father.
Yep.
You see someone, you know, that gained a lot of respect for me with Randy, because, you know, his family, he went after a family member. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to defend your family, period. You know, Jesus, Bob Orton Jr. is probably in his late 60s.
Yep.
And you don't want 30-year-old punks, you know, messing with your dad, so you got to go out and defend your family. Or did he get distracted with that? Yeah. That was all part of the match. You know, Jinder Mahal, you know, PED accusations notwithstanding, has, you know, taken himself from a jobber nobody to something. Yep. He's carrying the title well. He's playing his role.
Yep.
You know, in the words of The Rock, know your role. That man knows his role. He is to generate heat. He is, you know, we're seeing 80s type heel performances from him.
Yep.
And, you know, the IWC can just, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the Internet Wrestling Community can pound salt.
Well,
I like seeing stuff like this, okay? Because, like I've said before, I'm old school. This is old school with Jinder Mahal, and people don't like it. That's the whole idea. You're not supposed to like Jinder Mahal. You're not supposed to like him. You're supposed to despise him. He's not begging for the heat anymore. You know, at first he was making it all about he's different. Don't hear him say anything about being different anymore.
Yep.
He has grasped the concept that he's from India. His family heritage is from India, and he is going to use that to his advantage. I mean, the promo package they showed about him was brilliant.
Oh my God, that promo package was amazing.
And then the same promo package they put out about Randy, you know, the good old-fashioned Orton family ass-kicking. I mean, this is the kind of wrestling I grew up on. This is the kind of wrestling I want to see. You know, absolute hate and discontent for one another. It was a great match.
As somebody who's a Jinder Mahal fan and has been since the early days, I've been really, really excited about this, and you know, it's really enjoyable to see this happen.
It is. I mean, you know, like I said, I believe you were there in Daily when I came in, and I was all excited that he won. I was like, you know, I called it. I kept telling people he's gonna win. I know he's gonna win. I just feel it. And when he actually won, I came out of the Daily, and I was, you know, poking the bear, but also stating, you know, I was right, y'all. Y'all can suck wind. Y'all can pound salt, pound sand. I was right. You were wrong. Deal with it. Man, did I get the heat.
I mean, yeah, sure, but like at the same time, I feel as though that people wanted to think that Randy was merely going to be facing against somebody else like Rusev or one of the other people. They didn't think that Jinder Mahal was going to win. I honestly thought that they did because they were now doing a global expansion into India, which made a ton of sense for WWE. It's more viewers.
It did. It totally did. It totally 100% did. I mean, you got to understand business, and I own my own business. Okay, I understand that. You try to promote your business the best way possible, especially when you're expanding into a new market. You know, TNA went there. When we go on talking about TNA, TNA went there with the Ring Ka King and didn't do anything with it after it was over.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got the Great Khali over there who has a school.
Mm-hmm.
And he is training new wrestlers.
Yep.
Why not? This is perfect. Jinder Mahal, the WWE champion.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Great Khali, who was a former world champion in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Training him.
Yep. This is a perfect.
You make an arrangement that certain stars throughout the year go over there and wrestle within Khali's own promotion.
Yeah, they've done that actually.
And that'll generate more popularity of WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And he can bring more of his Indian wrestlers into the WWE, into NXT and into WWE.
They've already started doing that by bringing in Indian developmental talent.
I mean, it's going to be wonderful. It's a wonderful deal. And, you know, if people would just grasp the concept of what they're doing, you know, and look at it from the long view, it's going to be perfect.
Yeah. They're already doing all the international expansion that they need to do.
I mean, you've got the Hindi announcers.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that happen 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're going to figure out a way to have an Indian be the champion.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be Jinder Mahal, but I knew it was going to happen eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I think also Jinder Mahal title run is a lot more interesting than Randy Orton, who's played out as a character. And I think as a babyface, I think he's fine, but he's not really all that interesting as someone to headline your brand. So I'm much happier with Jinder Mahal being on top, especially as he's proven he's risen to the occasion and he's carrying the role well.
Yeah, he is. He really is. You know, and despite the thing about steroids or whatever, so what? So what?
Besides the fact that Jinder has actually passed every test so far. When he gets hit by the wellness violation, we'll talk about it then. But until then, you know,
deal with it. Like I'm saying, until then, deal with it.
I think the bigger issue a lot of people have with Jinder's rise is the fact that it was so sudden and so kind of out there, because a jobber on Raw and then suddenly gets traded to SmackDown and suddenly he's put into a #1 contenders match.
Okay, a jobber from Raw. Hell, Jinder Mahal back when 3MB, and he talks about this on Talking Smack after the pay-per-view, that he's come from he talks about it, being a jobber with 3MB and being released, going out and relearning his craft.
But I'm not even talking about. I'm not even talking about before. I'm talking about for the past 6 months since he's been back. He's been a jobber.
Well, they wanted to have 5 people in that match. I believe it was 4 or 5 in that match, and it was 5. And they threw him into that match. Everybody thought, "Oh, well, he ain't gonna win," and they swerved everybody. You know what? So what if he was a jobber for 6 months prior? So what? He's got on a run. I mean, you know, are we not in a society that applauds the underdog?
Yeah. In all honesty, this works because also they had built up for the past year, and I know that there have been several people who've complained massively about them turning the Land of Opportunity gimmick into a heel gimmick, but that made it work because Jinder going from being a jobber to champion in 6 months, that told the story, continued the story of the Land of Opportunity, and showcased it's not just baby faces benefiting from the Land of Opportunity, it's also heels.
Right, and that's the thing about it is that people don't understand that concept. You, as myself, I'm sure Keith and Brandon all understand that the Land of Opportunity is what you make it. If you're given a shot, you take full advantage of it. It doesn't matter what you're in, whether it's kayfabe, whether it's predetermined like wrestling is, or it's real life. If you don't grab the bull by the horns, you're not going to get anywhere.
So to continue on with this particular match, Brandon, what were your thoughts on the Orton Jinder match? Going back to that,
the match itself was pretty predictable. I mean, the whole thing with the legends. First off, it was kind of funny how like half those legend, they were calling them, you know, the St. Louis wrestling greats. Yet half of them weren't from St. Louis or didn't do anything in St. Louis. What?
All of them performed in St. Louis and made very big names for themselves there. Every one of them.
Even Flair.
Even Flair.
Flair was big in St. Louis, really big. Yeah, when he during his first NWA title run, he was like I think one of the most successful champions drawing in St. Louis. Any of
I mean, Sam Muchnick ran a tight ship in St. Louis, and he wouldn't have brought Flair in or Henning in or Gagne in or any of them, or Baron von Raschke for that matter, any of them into St. Louis.
If they didn't draw already.
Right. And the thing about it was there was one legend that wasn't there, and that's Harley Race. Harley Race was huge. Yeah, he was supposed to be there, but he broke his leg at home.
Yeah.
But Harley Race was huge in St. Louis. Huge.
But continuing on with the match, as long as, just like what we were talking about with the tag team title match, as long as this has some sort of blow off with a stipulation match to keep the Singh brothers out, I'm okay with it. But, you know, I mean, it was what you expected. The one thing I would love to see on a SmackDown, and I was expecting it to happen after Backlash, but it never did, is I want to see Randy Orton have a 1-on-2 handicap match against the Singh brothers and just have him just squash them.
I think they're going to do that eventually here. They'll do that kind of match.
Okay, Brandon, what kind of match are you talking about? What kind of stipulation match are you talking about?
Either steel cage or Hell in a Cell, or if the rumors are to be believed, you know, we bring back the Punjabi prison.
Oh, God.
I think that's probably the way they're going to go.
I know, but I agree with Taker that it's just going to be
another match, another gimmick match that will require blood that we're not going to see.
Yep. Oh, I agree. But you know, that's probably what we're gonna get. The one thing, and you guys were talking about their expansion into India and everything, and I know this is just the way WWE handles things, but I don't understand why, especially if you're trying to expand into India and show the diversity of India and get them on board with WWE, why would you change their names into something so generic?
Because that's American way, unfortunately, is that you look at our okay, Brandon, I'm gonna lay it on the line to you. Like I said, I'm the oldest member of this panel at the age of 53 years old, and I've lived a lot and I've seen a lot. And I'm not trying to minimize anything or down talk to you in any way. But our culture, our society today looks, you know, Caucasian America looks down upon anybody, and I mean anybody of a different color than Caucasian.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So It's simple. It's easier for Americans to accept generic names.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Singh is a very similar, very common name.
Mm-hmm.
That's a name that the people in the United States know.
Yeah.
Oh no,
My boss that I work third shift for
Mhm.
is an Indian. His last name is Patel.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very common name.
Yeah.
He speaks 3 different languages. He speaks English, Gujarati, and Hindi.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, very well educated man. At times, he's too educated because $20 and no cents.
Mm-hmm.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
I will defend that man, even though I have my moments where I want to wring his freaking neck.
Mm-hmm.
I will defend that man to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
He understands. He completely understands what WWE is doing.
Yeah.
So you don't think this has any sort of backlash in India? Because that's the whole reason why they're doing this.
No, it's the papers very clearly. They showcased in that promo video how much news coverage they're getting from Jinder Mahal becoming champion.
And they're getting tons.
Yes.
Tons.
And I have talked to a few people who are from India who are Cagesiders from there. They are actually more fans of John Cena and all of the big names in WWE. So to have a name who could be their champion, even though he's technically from Calgary, Alberta. Yeah.
Indian heritage.
Yeah.
And he speaks the language.
Yeah. So that works for them. They also get to see the big WWE stars, which they wanted to see. So it's a win-win for both sides.
It is. It's a 100% win-win, and it's money to be made. They're going to be printing money for years.
So, yeah, we had this championship match, which exceeded expectations. And, there'll probably be a blow-off with the Punjabi prison, which I'm looking forward to personally. But I mean...
But a match that requires blood, but ain't going to give us any.
It's a terrible gimmick, but it'll be an interesting match. But
Jinder will escape the prison and win.
Yep. I completely agree with Takers that it needs blood, but,
let's see. The last match, well, before then, we had the reintroduction in this case, of Mike, now known as Kanellis, and Maria Kanellis.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Maria Kanellis, so I'll sit this one out.
Okay, Maria Kanellis, for those of you who saw her WWE run last time, this is a completely different character. Maria Kanellis morphed from being a cheerleader character to basically Lady Macbeth. She became the girlfriend of Mike Bennett. She saw a superstar in waiting. However, Mike Bennett is, for all intents and purposes, a total goon, and so Maria had to transition her character from being supportive of him to basically carrying him through a minefield to get him to success by manipulating deals, joining stables, tag teams, you name it, in Ring of Honor. Then they went over to TNA, had a short run over there where they were also successful. Then they jumped over to WWE on this particular pay-per-view, Money in the Bank. Would that be an accurate description of what they have done since then, Keith?
Yes, it would be. I think I'm very familiar with Maria from being trolled via online in her TNA days when we had a podcast, and I'm very happy to see that she's got this opportunity with a partner, Mike Kanellis now. I think they were a real bright spot in the sort of Corgan era of TNA. Obviously, politics with Corgan not getting control of TNA meant that they left the company. But I think they really deserve this opportunity, and I think they've got an interesting act. I think it's the power dynamic is very interesting because this is a male-female duo where clearly the woman has the power in the relationship. It seems that that's how they're portraying it, and you know, they play an obnoxiously in love couple very well. So I think this is and I think it was the right move to debut them straight on the main roster. I don't think they needed to be in NXT, and also I think the only weakness is whether Mike Kanellis he's not a great in-ring worker, and that's the only thing that will maybe hold back this act a little bit, is that Mike isn't a great in-ring worker, but he's certainly not bad. So if they can that you know, I think they deserve their shot in WWE, and I hope they do well with it.
Yeah, I think this will work out perfectly for them because Mike Bennett basically fits the WWE style like a glove.
What is his style?
It's traditional New England technical wrestling, you know.
You're saying old school?
Yeah, pretty much.
You think so you're thinking I'll like him as a character overall?
Because he'll be the most obnoxious person on that roster, by far.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you need to worry about Mike Kanellis's in-ring style or anything, because with the direction that they seem to be going right now, I think he's basically going to be her manager / valet.
Actually, you know, it's going to be the opposite.
Some of the things I heard about her is that she didn't work much in the ring anyway.
No, she is a pure manager. Basically, like the three wise men of the East in WWF, but far more dangerous.
You know, that's another thing. You're bringing up something that is sorely needed.
Managers, indeed.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like
we got one that everybody's comparing with. I call him Pretty Boy, Bobby Heenan. That's Paul Heyman. And
it looks like,
and then we got nothing else. The greatest one after that, the greatest one from the Brain, which he was called in WWE and elsewhere, was Paul Bearer.
Yeah, Paul Bearer.
William Murray.
It looks like they're starting to try to bring managers back. Now they're starting to push him more as a wrestler, but the rumor when the whole Titus brand started was that he was going to basically become a manager.
You talking about WWE's version of Big Baller brand with LeVar Ball?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, I think in this case they wanted to use Titus O'Neil in a case where they don't have to use him as an in-ring wrestler anymore, and his biggest strength, as always, has been his promo ability. So they're using.
God, he's one hell of a promo.
Yeah,
always has been.
Yeah, they've just never really taken advantage of it, but they've never have in the manager's sense.
Now, I have something that I brought up that would be interesting.
Okay,
we just had the NBA draft.
Yep.
Lonzo was taken by the Lakers second round.
Yep.
Second pick overall.
Yep.
Not 20 seconds after it was done, and Lonzo's up there doing his handshake with the commissioner. Everything. LeVar runs his mouth and says the Lakers will be in the playoffs next year, guaranteed. Why doesn't now would be the perfect time for the Titus brand, quote unquote Titus brand, to do something with LeVar Ball.
I think that they're working up to that, but we'll have to see if the negotiations and all that other kind of stuff could work, because I think LeVar might need some capital for his shoe brand.
Yeah, $500 shoes.
Oh God, $500 shoes.
If you can't afford those shoes, you're not a big baller. Give me a break.
Shoes aside, and I'm glad they're bringing back in managers in this case. Looking forward to see what they do down the line. But we have one more match to cover. That would be the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and the winner, the hero, Baron Corbin. Ooh, I can tell you not particularly happy about the winner, Taker. So what's your thoughts on this one?
The match itself was great. Seeing AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, God, I love that man. Actually, both of them were down in the ring. They grew up on a ladder. They both came down, moved the ladder out of the way, and just started brawling with one another.
Yep.
It makes me look forward to that feud.
Yeah.
But the question I have, and that is, who's going to be the heel?
Gonna possibly maybe be Styles, because they've been wanting to push Nakamura as a face.
The only problem with that I see is that you just turned Styles face.
You can turn him back, heel or face, and
Styles. I think Styles can sell the face, sell the heel much better, because look at what he did against John Cena.
I would agree that Styles would be the more likely choice as being.
And here's what you need to have happen. We need another shakeup, and the two other members of the old Bullet Club from New Japan come over as his backup against Nakamura.
Yep.
And create another Bullet Club. But anyway, getting back to that match itself, it was a great match. I mean, it wasn't that much of a spot fest. There were a few. It wasn't overdone. You know, bumps and all the extreme bumps that these guys are taking. I'm against. I've always been against, because it's not real wrestling, in my opinion. It's not the style that I grew up on. However, it's part of today, because like we've said many times, you know, color and bleeding and blood is not part of the part of wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
So they've gone to bumps.
And also the attitude there put the bar so high that everyone expects it now.
Yeah.
Right, but like I said, there wasn't an overabundance of spots, high spots. There were a few. But in the end, seeing Baron Corbin win it, although I'm not a big fan of Baron Corbin, the right man won. I think, you know, they've been pushing him since he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal 2 years ago. You know, he was getting his push, and then something happened. I don't know. Maybe he got hurt, and we don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the right man won, even though I myself don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
My wife despises him.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good match. I mean, it was I'd say an A-, B+ match.
Yeah.
You know, it just flowed so smoothly. The whole match flowed smoothly. Of all the matches from Money in the Bank, that one was the most perfectly flowing match that they had.
Yeah, it was much like the Extreme Rules match. And it was kind of weird to think that, you know, both main events on both these cards were really good.
Maybe WWE's getting it right finally.
Possibly.
If they can, but the thing about it is they need to get more matches right.
Yeah.
If we're only getting one match out of 5 or 6, they still got issues.
Yeah, they certainly do. So, Brandon, what are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely the best match of the night. Well done by everyone. Like Taker said, there were a few high spots that I liked. I liked the Styles dangling by the chain, and the subsequent pictures and memes and everything with him have been hilarious. And the other thing I liked was when this match started and the whole Baron Corbin attacking Shinsuke, everyone who has watched wrestling over the years was thinking, okay, Shinsuke's going to come back and he's going to win this. But they swerved us. They did have Shinsuke come back, but they didn't have him win, which I liked. So that was good. Overall, just a really good match. This was definitely the best match of the night. And I mean, I'm very interested to see what happens with Corbin when he's gonna cash in. You know, it's always fun. Money in the Bank, and Royal Rumble. When it comes to their implications and all of that are always my two favorite gimmicks of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to see what happens with Corbin.
Mm-hmm. Coolness. Yeah, that's some very good points there. So, Keith, what are your thoughts on this main event match?
I thought it's a very good match. I thought, it told a good story with Shinsuke being taken out and coming back for the finish. I thought Sami Zayn was integral to the mid portion of the match, and I think had the best performance. I thought, he really went all out to deliver a top performance. Styles was great as well. Owens was very good. Ziggler played his part. I just worry, though, that the match, even though Corbin won, I'm not sure how many favours it really did him, because he really didn't come across as that important a player in the match. I mean, I think he was outshone by everyone else in the match, and the finish didn't really help him that much, in the sense he just took advantage of tipping off Nakamura and Styles when they were battling on top of the ladder, and I thought the finish came off quite flat. So, I mean, I agree that Corbin was a good person to win this match, but I'm not sure how it was done helped him that much.
I mean, that's how most of these types of matches happen, where someone just finds the right opportunity and capitalizes on it. I mean, look at the Extreme Rules match last month, or a couple of years ago.
Well, Brandon, look at it this way. Look at the first Royal Rumble that Roman Reigns was in. He was taken out of the ring through the second rope and was gone for like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Came back in the end and won.
Exactly. I mean,
what Baron Corbin did was no different. It's the same formula. He laid low. I mean, if you look at everybody that's won this match, they've not really been a major participant in the match.
Mm-hmm.
They've always been knocked out of the ring, quote unquote, kayfabe hurt, whatever you want to call it. They're laying on the side there, recovering. They disappear for 5-10 minutes out of the match for no apparent reason whatsoever. Come back and win it.
Yeah, that always.
This is standard WWE. What's the word I'm looking for? Potion for this kind of match.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just standard.
That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the way they should always do it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So I think at the end of the day, Corbin, I don't know, needed to be presented as more of a monster, like more of an ass kicker than he was in the match.
Well, we've got a monster on the main roster in Braun Strowman, so we don't need a second one in Baron Corbin, because Baron Corbin's not big enough. He's strong enough, but he's not big enough, and he's not that over of a character yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a happy balance. I don't think he needs to be presented as unstoppable as Braun Strowman, but I think they could have maybe, particularly perhaps earlier on in the match, perhaps presented him as a bit more of a threat than they did do.
That's possible. I mean, but this is WWE and it's Vince. Like Vince has said so many times, we don't know the fans don't know what they want. I'm going to tell them what they want.
Yeah.
Well, these here fans have definitely expressed a lot about. I mean, I thought the match was really a good match. I'm very personally happy about Corbin winning, because I've been a big fan of his since his NXT days, when he started destroying people I don't like.
Well, I'm waiting for the inevitable face turn of Baron Corbin, because we all know that's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, even though Kevin Owens is a heel, the pops he gets are face pops.
Oh, I've never considered Kevin Owens as a heel personally, but that's just me.
He's booked as the heel.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I can't wait until we get the inevitable Sami Zayn Kevin Owens reunion.
Oh God. Oh God. All right. Them are in this match. That was one of the only issues I had with this match. I thought Sami Zayn was going to be taken out of the match by somebody not named Kevin Owens. I was expecting one of these participants, either Zayn or Ziggy, to get taken out before the match a couple weeks beforehand on SmackDown. Instead, all the participants were completely fine. They usually do the swerve where somebody enters the Money in the Bank match as a replacement for somebody else. Didn't do that this time.
No, they didn't. I was expecting that myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at, you saw what was on Sami Zayn's tights, didn't you?
Yeah.
About something about not giving into despair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And of anybody, even though he may have been quote unquote injured, kayfabe, he probably would have shown up in the match anyway.
Oh yeah, certainly. That's his personality. That's his character. That's what's been established.
Unfortunately, same with Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
You know, Dolph Ziggler is someone that you've seen come in all wrapped up to wrestle a match.
Yes, wrapped up like the Yeti to wrestle a match.
Don't talk about the Yeti. That was the biggest joke.
Yeah, sure, but like that's why I'm comparing him to Ziggy, because Ziggy himself is kind of a joke.
The funniest thing when it comes to tape is how Cesaro is still wearing that tape a year after he's been injured.
Yeah, I've been wondering about that.
I think that's some kind of like...
So if Tyson Kidd were ever to come back, which we highly doubt, is he going to be wearing tape around his neck and back for 6 years? Or is he going to be wearing, you know, or you look at, if we really want to go back in history, look at Bob Orton Jr.
Yeah, that arm cast.
He wore a cast for what, 10 years?
Yeah. Honestly, that was one of the minor things about the main event match I was a little surprised by, because you know, Bob didn't hit him with the cast.
Bob didn't have a cast.
Which was weird. I was like, why does Bob not have a cast here?
I was expecting Rick to punch somebody in the face.
Yeah, that's one thing I was disappointed in with that whole thing, was that they basically just sat there and didn't do anything.
Yeah, I was expecting the Legends to lay some kicks some ass.
Sure. But I now think of the reason why, because they've had so many incidents where fans have jumped a barricade and have had incidents with the wrestlers. I think that they wanted to discourage that behavior. So they weren't able to do that.
That makes sense. I could just imagine seeing the Baron putting a claw on one of the Singh brothers. That would have been hilarious.
Or just the selling by Jinder Mahal after she did that.
Yeah.
So this overall was a creative foreclosure of a show.
Yep.
The pre-show, great. Money in the Bank women's match, we all agree, disaster.
Yep.
Disaster of the highest order. Oh, God. The day that some of these people in the creative department get mauled by women's wrestlers is not soon enough.
Poor Dewey.
Dewey's on Raw, unfortunately.
Well, still.
Yeah. I half expected Dewey to be tied up and just beaten up with a kendo stick and candy and sock puppets will come out. But, you know.
But then again, he might like it. But anyway.
Anyway. Fully family side, this was a very uneven show with a good main event and a decent tag match that was marred by a bad finish, a championship match that was actually better than expected, and a Money in the Bank men's match that was as good as the Extreme Rules match that occurred earlier in the month. So, yeah, we'll get our final thoughts off here on this show of Money in the Bank. We'll start off with Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, final thoughts, just it was a decent pay-per-view. Like you said, the latter half of the show was a little better than the beginning half. It's kind of bad when you talk about the pre-show match as one of the better matches of the night. You know, the women's match got awful. The men's Money in the Bank match was good. You had some surprises. You had some interesting swerves in there. The two matches that ended kind of in dusty finishes as long as we get the proper blow-offs for them, I'm okay with them. If not, then it's going to be bad. But other than that, not really all that much else to say about this.
Coolness. Okay, Taker, what's your final thoughts on Money in the Bank?
Overall, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view was a pretty good show for me. Like I said, I've watched it 2 or 3 times since Sunday. Part of it was for research for this, even though I wasn't sure I was going to be here. The pre-show match, being one of the matches of the night, I would give that more so to the Money in the Bank ladder match for the men. Like I said, it wasn't a spot fest. It was a great match. All in all, the ending, the beginning was surprising with Baron Corbin taking out
Nakamura?
Taking out Shinsuke Nakamura. It wasn't the typical formula that WWE uses of the person being taken out before the match, coming back and winning it. They threw us a curveball or a swerve, as we would say, and put Baron Corbin in that place. Granted, the message, the phone call I got from my wife while I was on my way to work that night was effing Baron Corbin won. I was driving into work. I'd woken up and watched part of that match and live, and she told me that, and I was like, well, that is what it is. He's going to be a champion, but the question I have is, who's going to be the face he cashes in on?
Cena.
No, not Cena.
No.
Cena will be taking the Universal title off of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He's a free agent.
Don't even get me started on that rumor.
He's a free agent, and he's going to be going back and forth between both brands because he can spike ratings. We all know this.
Yep.
Don't even get me started.
Why not? I love the stir of the pot.
If that is the main event WrestleMania, I threatened it when it was Rock versus Cena, but because I still like The Rock, I still watched it. But I am telling you right now, and I'm hoping that I am not in the minority, or at least there's a few other people that agree with me. If that does in fact become the main event of WrestleMania, you know what's happening after the real main event, the second.
You're canceling your subscription to WWE Network, and you won't be a fan of wrestling anymore.
Well, no, not quite that, but I won't be subscribing for WrestleMania. I'll just use someone else's. But you know what's happening after that second to last match? I'm turning it off. I'm not even watching that match.
Okay.
Don't care.
You do you, man.
Whatever you need to do, man, like I said, with the amount of years I've been following this business, I can tend to see things happening way in advance of others.
Any other thoughts, final thoughts about Money in the Bank?
I give it if you want me to give it an overall grade, I give it a B- total overall.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about what I give.
The only failure match was the women's Money in the Bank match, and I gave that an F-.
Proper rating right there, Taker. So, Keith, what are your final thoughts on the Money in the Bank?
Well, it looked like a skippable show coming in. I didn't have much interest in the show. I probably wouldn't have watched it if I wasn't asked to take part in this podcast. And I think, as a lot of WWE pay-per-views are, the wrestling was good on the whole, but the creative is lacking, and I think they really need to do something with the SmackDown brand to make their pay-per-views feel more important. I think I get the sense that it's an enjoyable show on TV, but the pay-per-views seem to be feel less consequential than, say, the Raw pay-per-views, particularly with Brock Lesnar being on the Raw brand.
Yeah, I'd agree with you right there. And as far as the show goes, I watched Money in the Bank. I thought it was okay. It was a show that was very disjointed at the beginning. It had a very disappointing women's match that really, really should have just been better. Really should have just been better from a creative booking standpoint. But they have a do-over this Tuesday. Don't screw it up.
Well, who do you think's going to win Tuesday?
Probably Carmella, but, you know, at least somebody who will be winning the match. It won't be James Ellsworth.
We can only
We
hope unless he.
need him taken somewhere.
Yeah,
I like I said, the Ginny solution or the Asuka solution is either ones that we're going with James on that one. We'll think of a couple other ones after the show, I think.
Because I
just thought of something that is something they used to do in WCW and in NWA, AWA, the handcuff match.
Oh, okay.
Handcuff the manager to somebody.
Imagine
James Ellsworth handcuffed to Asuka.
No, better yet, I want to see him get the Jericho treatment. I want him to be hung up in a shark cage.
No, handcuff to Asuka.
And he will die in like about 5 seconds. But anyway, this has been Cageside Speaks, the Creative Foreclosure edition, our 2nd anniversary show. Thank you so much for tuning in on this edition of Cageside Speaks. Our next 2 shows will be the pay-per-view I continue to not say the name of because I think it is the silliest name imaginable. So I'm calling it WWE Bonfire and WWE Battleground.
Flaming Crutch.
Oh, I'm calling it Bonfire because it might be a total disaster even with Joe and Brock as the main event.
I'm looking forward to that match, to be perfectly honest with you. But like I've said it before we came on here, we need to see some color in that match.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to the match just in terms of what will happen, but that's the problem I have with Brock holding the title, is that everyone knows who's going to win that match. So
we'll see. It might be somebody different. Who knows? But anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in on this edition of the show. We hope you liked our new guests, and we apologize for any offensive language we might have said during the broadcast. You know, we'll see you next time.
Sorry.
No problem. You apologize on air. That's fine. You know, as long as the audience knows that we're apologetic about it, it's all good. You know.
It's my passion coming out.
Yep. Anyway, this has been the latest edition of Cageside Speaks on CagesideSeats.com. We'll see you next time. I think our next 2 dates will be July 15th and July 30th for those 2 shows, and we'll see you then. Until then, have a good day or night, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.